Kiera Donovan yanked the zipper up the back of her borrowed gown with trembling fingers, her heart slamming against her ribs as the sound of laughter and champagne flutes echoed from the ballroom below. She wasn't supposed to be here. Not at the most exclusive event in New York, not in a $5,000 dress that wasn't hers, and definitely not anywhere near the one man she'd spent 6 years trying to forget, Wesley Pierce. But fate had its own twisted sense of humor. "Are you sure about this?" her best friend, Mira, whispered as she adjusted the mask over Kiera's face, the black lace barely concealing the sharp worry in her eyes. "You still have time to slip out before anyone notices. He won't even know you were here." Kiera forced a smile. That's the plan. She'd come to the gala for one reason, to represent Mira, who was supposed to be waitressing here tonight, but had twisted her ankle. Kiera had waitressed at charity events before, but nothing like this. This wasn't just any gala. It was the Pierce Foundation's annual masquerade, a black tie spectacle where millionaires mingled behind masks, careless with their wealth, and even more careless with hearts. And Wesley, he would be here. The last time she saw him, she'd been 19, standing in the rain, her acceptance letter to Juilliard soaked through because the man she loved had walked away without looking back. Now, 6 years later, the man who left her for his career and his father's approval was one of the youngest self-made millionaires in Manhattan. And she was a music teacher scraping by in Queens. She gripped the serving tray tighter and stepped into the ballroom. The room was gold and glitter, chandeliers dripping like crystal rain above hundreds of masked guests in gowns and tuxedos. Waiters in white jackets moved like choreography between tables, offering champagne and caviar. A live quartet played near the grand staircase, the music soft and elegant. She kept her head down, weaving between guests, praying her mask was enough. Then she heard his voice. "I don't care what the board wants. If they want to pull funding, let them. This gala isn't about them, it's about the kids." Kiera froze, her tray tipping slightly. That voice, that stubborn tone, that fire. It hadn't changed. She turned toward the sound before she could stop herself. There he was, Wesley Pierce. Even masked, he was unmistakable. Broad shoulders under a tailored black tux, chestnut hair swept back, his mouth set in that familiar firm line. He hadn't seen her. Not yet. She spun away, nearly colliding with a guest. "Careful," a man chuckled, steadying her. "You okay?" "Fine," she muttered, heart pounding. She had to get out. She couldn't risk him recognizing her. Not like this. Not when she was posing as a server at his $1 million fundraiser. But as she turned toward the kitchen, a hand gently caught her elbow. "Wait." The voice was deeper now. Closer. "Wesley." She stiffened. Slowly, she turned, lifting her eyes to meet his. He was still masked, but close enough now that she could see the freckle near his left eye. Still there. Still him. "I haven't seen you around," he said, his gaze sweeping over her. "You're not staff. You're not a donor. Who are you?" Kiera's throat tightened. "I'm just helping out a friend." He tilted his head. "That's not an answer." She forced a smile, grateful for the mask. "Maybe I like a little mystery." He studied her for a moment, then smiled, and it hit her like a punch to the chest. That crooked smile. That was the one that used to make her kiss him mid-sentence. "You dance?" he asked. Her breath caught. "What?" "The orchestra's playing my favorite piece. It'd be a shame to waste it." She shook her head. "I'm working." Wesley reached into his jacket and pulled out a black token. The same kind staff had told her guests used to buy dances for charity. $10,000 a token. He held it up. "I just donated this for a dance. So technically, you're still working." Her lips parted. "You're bribing me?" "I'm fundraising," he said. Before she could object, he took her hand gently, guiding her onto the dance floor. The crowd parted like water around them. The moment his hand settled on her waist, Something snapped inside her. 6 years gone, and yet. Her body remembered. The music swelled, and they moved together like they had 100 times before without thinking, without speaking. She wanted to pull away. She needed to. But her legs betrayed her. He leaned closer. You feel familiar. Her breath hitched. Maybe in another life, she said softly, looking away. Wesley chuckled. You say that like we've danced before. She didn't answer. They swayed in silence for a moment, surrounded by laughter and music and 1,000 lights. Then he asked, Why are you really here? I told you. Helping a friend. You're hiding something. I think you are too, she said, lifting her chin. He looked at her for a long time. I don't usually do this. What? Dance. No. Feel like I already know someone I've never met. Kiera's chest fluttered. Don't fall for this again. But the way he looked at her, it wasn't the polished charm of a millionaire. It was real. Raw. Like he was trying to see past the mask. The song ended, and he didn't let go. Come have a drink with me, he said. She hesitated. I can't. Why not? Because. She swallowed. Because I'm not who you think I am. He stepped closer. Then let me find out who you are. She looked into his eyes and saw the boy who once played piano beside her, who held her hand under the stars and said forever. And then she did the only thing that made sense. She turned and ran. Back through the crowd, into the corridor, past the security, until she reached the service exit. She yanked off the mask, gasping for air. What was she thinking? She wasn't supposed to be seen. She wasn't supposed to feel anything. And she definitely wasn't supposed to fall back in love with Wesley Pierce. But it was already too late. Kiera pressed her back against the alley's cold brick wall, her breath fogging in the night air as she tried to quiet the storm inside her. The city buzzed around her, horns and voices muffled by the pounding in her ears. Her heels pinched, her dress itched, and her heart refused to slow. She had to get out of here. She needed to return Myra's gown, return to her real life, and forget the way Wesley's hand had curled so naturally around hers. But even as she hailed a cab and gave the address of their shared apartment in Queens, her fingers still tingled. When she stepped inside, Mira was waiting on the couch, her foot propped up, a bowl of cereal balanced on her lap. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said with a raised brow. Kiera kicked off the heels and collapsed beside her. I danced with him. Mira blinked. You what? Wesley. He recognized me. Not exactly, but. He knew something. Said I felt familiar. I panicked. I left. You dance with Wesley Pierce at his own gala? Myra's voice rose. I leave you for 2 hours and you become Cinderella? Kiera buried her face in her hands. It wasn't supposed to happen. He came out of nowhere. Did you talk to him? She shook her head. Only a little. He thinks I'm someone else. I didn't tell him my name. Mira tilted her head. You still love him? No, Kiera said too quickly. I don't even know him anymore. Mira didn't press. She knew better. The next morning, Kiera arrived early at the small studio where she taught piano lessons. The familiar scent of sheet music and lemon cleaner grounded her. She poured herself into the rhythm of teaching, guiding young fingers over ivory keys, pretending she hadn't danced with a man who once kissed her under a broken street lamp and promised never to forget her. But the illusion shattered the moment she entered the cafe across the street during her lunch break. Wesley was sitting at the corner table. No tuxedo. No mask. Just a navy button-down rolled at the sleeves, phone in one hand, coffee in the other. He looked up. Their eyes met. Kiera froze. He stood. I knew it, he said, crossing the room. I knew I wasn't losing my mind. She clutched her bag tighter. What are you doing here? I followed you, he said without apology. Not in a creepy way, he added quickly. You left the gala like your dress was on fire. I needed to know who you were. You followed me all the way from Midtown?
I saw you get in a cab.
I remembered the number. Called in a favor with a friend at the garage. She stared at him.
I had to know, he said.
It's been bothering me since last night. You felt like a memory I couldn't place. You shouldn't be here. Too late. She took a step back. This is my workplace. Then I'll walk with you. Just 5 minutes. She hesitated. Please, he added. They stepped outside, the wind catching her hair.
He didn't try to touch her this time.
I'm Wesley, he said. I know. He smiled faintly. You still won't tell me your name. She looked down the street. Why does it matter? Because I don't forget people who make me feel like the world just tilted. Kiera laughed dryly. You really haven't changed. I don't remember changing. You left a lot behind when you climbed your way up. He frowned. Have we met before? She hesitated. He studied her face. You know me, don't you? She didn't answer. I'm not going to stop asking.
Kiera sighed. Once.
A long time ago. You wouldn't remember. Try me. You played piano in the park near 16th Street. Every Saturday. You helped me tune mine once. I was 16. His brow furrowed. That was forever ago. Exactly. He studied her.
Wait.
You're Kiera Donovan. Her breath caught. You had a scholarship to Juilliard. I had a lot of things, she said quietly. They didn't all last. Wesley stepped back like he'd been hit. You disappeared. You left first. I didn't know where you went. You didn't ask. He shook his head. I thought you were in Europe. Someone said you got a job composing. Kiera hugged her arms across her chest.
I teach piano. To kids.
That's all.
His voice softened.
That's not nothing. It wasn't supposed to be this way. He didn't speak for a long moment. Then, can I buy you lunch? She blinked. What? He pointed to the cafe. Just lunch.
No dancing. No tokens.
She hesitated. Why? Because I want to know who you are now, not who you were. Kiera studied him. The boy she once loved was still in there, buried beneath the man in expensive shoes and a watch worth more than her rent.
Fine.
1 hour. He opened the door for her, and they stepped inside. The walls were lined with art from local students, the tables chipped but clean. They sat across from each other, menus unopened. Why did you really come to that gala? He asked. She looked out the window. I wasn't supposed to be there. That much I figured. I was covering for a friend. He leaned forward. You ran like you were afraid I'd see you. I was. Why? Kiera met his eyes. Because I didn't want you to see who I've become. He tilted his head. You think I would have judged you? You disappeared into a world I couldn't follow. Now you own buildings and throw galas and make speeches about legacy. I tune pianos in public schools. You think that makes you small? It makes me forgettable.
He was quiet for a long time.
Then he said, You were never forgettable. The waitress came and they ordered. She barely tasted her sandwich. I'm not the same person you knew, she said. Neither am I. Then maybe this doesn't make sense. Or maybe, he said, it's exactly why it does. She looked at him, truly looked. The angles of his face were sharper now. The charm was polished. But there was weariness, too. Something else behind the easy confidence. Why are you really here? She asked. Wesley hesitated. Because I've spent the last 6 years building everything I thought I wanted. And now I wake up every morning wondering why it feels like something's still missing. Kiera's throat tightened. I didn't come here to drag you back, he added. I want to know you again. If you'll let me. She didn't answer. But she didn't walk away either. Kiera hadn't planned on seeing Wesley again. Not after that quiet lunch where he looked at her like she was still someone he remembered, not a shadow of the girl he left behind. But 3 days later, he was waiting outside her studio when her last student left for the day. He leaned against a dark gray Mercedes, sleeves rolled up, no tie in sight. His presence didn't ask for attention, it commanded it. "You're persistent," she said as she locked the door behind her. "I could say the same about you. You disappeared again." She adjusted the strap of her tote. "We had lunch. That wasn't an invitation to show up unannounced." "I know, but I was hoping you might give me one anyway." Kiera exhaled slowly. "To what, exactly?" "A second chance." She narrowed her eyes. "At what? Dancing? Or disappearing without a word?" He stepped closer, but not too close. "At doing it right. This time." She didn't answer. His gaze dropped to the sidewalk for a moment. "I'm not going to pretend like I didn't mess it up back then. I was 19, terrified of losing everything before I even had it. I chose ambition. I thought I had time to come back around." He looked up. "But the truth is, I never stopped thinking about you. And seeing you again made me realize I don't want to just remember you, I want to know who you are now." Kiera blinked against the sudden rush of emotion in her chest. People don't just come back after 6 years and get that. "I know," he said quietly. "But I'd like to try." "Why now?" "Because I've spent the last few years building a life full of things that impress everyone but me." She studied him. "You're not the only one who lost something." His voice dropped. "Tell me." She hesitated, then sat down on the bench outside the studio. After a moment, he followed. "I didn't end up at Juilliard," she said, folding her hands. "My dad got sick right after I got the acceptance letter. Lung cancer. Stage 4. I deferred a year to help care for him. Then another. And by the time he passed, I couldn't afford tuition. The scholarship was gone." Wesley's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. "I took a job at a public elementary school. Started teaching music to kids who'd never even seen a real piano. And somewhere between lesson plans and late rent, I stopped asking myself what I wanted." "I should have been there," he said. "You weren't." "I know." She looked at him. "You can't rewrite that." "I don't want to rewrite it," he said. "I want to build something new if you'll let me." Kiera stood. "It's not that simple." "I didn't say it would be. But I want to prove to you that I'm not just here out of guilt or nostalgia. I'm here because I see you, and I want to be part of your life again." She hesitated. "I have a recital next week. My students have been working on it for months. It's not fancy, but it's important to them. Tell me when and where." "I didn't invite you." "I didn't say I needed an invitation." She rolled her eyes, but the corner of her mouth twitched. "It's Tuesday night.
7.
Queens Community Center. I'll be there." She turned to go. "Kiera."
She paused.
"I meant what I said. I don't want the past. I want right now." She didn't respond, but this time, she didn't walk away angry. When Tuesday night came, Kiera stood backstage in the cramped auditorium, adjusting ties and smoothing ponytails as her students fidgeted with nerves. The lights flickered. The crowd was small, a few dozen parents, teachers, neighbors. And Wesley. She spotted him in the second row, dressed in a dark shirt and blazer, no tie, holding a small bouquet of sunflowers. He caught her eye and gave a slow nod. Not a wave. Not a grin. Just quiet presence. She hadn't expected how deeply that would hit her. After the final piece, when the students took their bows and the crowd applauded, Wesley waited at the edge of the stage. She met him there, still holding her clipboard tight to her chest. "They were incredible," he said. "They've worked really hard." He extended the bouquet. "These are for you." She hesitated, then took them. "Sunflowers? You used to draw them in the margins of your sheet music." She looked up at him. "You remembered that?" "I remember more than you think." She didn't know what to say to that. But she didn't hand the flowers back. "Let me take you somewhere," he said. "I have to clean up." "I'll help." She arched a brow. "You clean up after kids now?" "I'm learning new skills." An hour later, They were driving across the bridge in his car, the city lights stretching out like gold veins across the dark. He didn't say where they were going, and she didn't ask. When the car finally stopped, they were outside a small, quiet rooftop garden atop a building in Brooklyn. Twinkling lights were strung between poles, and a small table sat at the edge with 2 chairs and a covered tray. Kiera turned to him. "What is this?" "I own the building," he said. "But no one uses this space. I thought it deserved a little life." She blinked. "You set this up?" "I had help. But the idea was mine." He pulled out a chair for her. "I didn't want to impress you with money," he said as he sat across from her. "I wanted to create a space where we could talk."
No masks. No distractions.
The lid of the tray revealed 2 steaming bowls of tomato bisque and a basket of grilled cheese sandwiches. She laughed under her breath. "You remember my comfort food. It was that or sushi, and you used to call that cold regret on rice." She laughed again, this time louder. They ate in quiet companionship, the hum of traffic far below. The city felt distant here, like they were floating above it. After a while, she set her spoon down. "What do you want from this, Wesley?" He didn't flinch. "A beginning." She met his eyes. "This isn't a fairy tale."
No.
"But I think we both deserve something real." She studied him for a long moment. Then she reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. "I don't trust easily anymore," she said. "Then I'll wait. And I'll earn it." She didn't pull her hand back. And for the first time in years, Kiera didn't feel like a girl watching someone else live the life she was supposed to have. She felt seen. She felt chosen. And deep down, she started to believe that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end of something lost. It was the start of something entirely new. Rain had started to fall by the time Wesley pulled his car to a stop in front of Kiera's building. Not the kind of storm that demanded umbrellas and chaos, just a soft, steady drizzle that shimmered against the windshield like silver thread. He didn't turn off the engine. Kiera stared ahead, hands clasped together in her lap. "You didn't have to drive me all the way home." "I wanted to." He paused. "Besides, I wasn't ready to say goodnight." She turned to him. "Do you ever slow down?" He tilted his head. "You mean in general?" "I mean in life." Her voice was quiet. "You've always been chasing the next thing. The next investment. The next win. I used to think it was ambition. But sometimes it feels like you're scared of standing still." He didn't speak right away. "That's not untrue." "Why?" He exhaled, tapping his thumb lightly against the steering wheel. "Because when I finally stop moving, I start hearing all the things I've tried to forget." Kiera leaned back against the seat. "Like what?" "That I left you behind. That I built everything I thought I wanted, and none of it means anything if I can't share it with someone who sees me beyond the numbers." She didn't reply. "I bought a penthouse last year," he continued, "overlooking Central Park. Every window in the place is glass. But it still feels like a cage. You think I'm the key? I think you're the first thing in years that's made it feel like a place I'd actually want to come home to." Kiera glanced out the window, watching the water trace lazy lines down the glass. "You know, I used to imagine what it would have been like if you'd stayed. We probably would have fought all the time. You were always too confident. I was always too stubborn. Still are." She gave a soft laugh. "But there was something about you that made everything feel possible. I haven't felt that in a long time." He shifted toward her. "Come to Vienna with me." Her head snapped around. "What?" "There's a music initiative launching next week. Scholarships, community funding, school partnerships. It's being hosted by an International Council on Arts Education. I'm one of the keynote speakers. I'm supposed to show how private investment can impact public programs. Wesley, you're the one who should be on that stage, not me. You're living the thing they want to fund. You've kept music alive for kids who don't even have enough pencils in their classrooms. You've done the thing I talk about on panels and pretend I understand." She blinked at him. "You want me to go to Vienna? With you?" I want you to speak. I'll handle the logistics. Flights, accommodations, everything. You just show them what real change looks like." She hesitated. "And what happens when it ends? When we land back in New York and the real world is waiting? Then we build something in it." "You make it sound easy. It's not. But I'd rather try and fail with you than succeed without you again." Kiera looked down at her hands. "I have responsibilities. My kids. My classes. 1 week. I'll cover your salary for the missed days. I'll install brand new keyboards in every classroom if I have to. Let me do this, Kiera. Let me invest in something that matters." She looked up and for the first time, she didn't see the man who left. She saw the one who stayed. "When do we leave?" "Thursday." She shook her head, smiling despite herself. "You really don't waste time. I've already wasted enough." The flight to Vienna was overnight. First class, of course. But Wesley didn't say a word about the cost. He just handed her a passport sleeve with her name embossed in soft gold and a travel itinerary printed on thick linen paper. She tried to protest, but he cut her off with a look that said this wasn't about money, it was about meaning. The conference was held in a grand hall just steps from the Danube, with arched ceilings and gilded balconies. Kiera stood backstage, her hands trembling around a folder of notes, as a translator whispered cues and a stage manager counted down the seconds. Wesley appeared beside her, dressed in a charcoal suit with a burgundy tie she hadn't seen before. "I'm going to throw up," she whispered. "No, you're not. I can't do this. These people are scholars. Experts." He took her folder and set it aside. "They're people. And people respond to truth. Just tell them what you've lived." "I didn't come prepared for this." "Yes, you did. You've been preparing for this since the day you walked into your first classroom with nothing but a second-hand keyboard and a broken metronome." She stared at him, her chest tightening. "What if I mess it up? Then we get on a plane and go home." "But I promise you when you step out there and speak from your heart, no one will forget what you say." The stage manager nodded. Kiera took a breath and stepped into the light. Her voice shook at first. But as she spoke about the students who taught her more than any conservatory ever could, about the music programs held together with duct tape and love, the room fell silent. By the time she finished, even the translators paused to catch their breath. Afterward, she stood in the hallway outside the hall, still dazed. Wesley approached, his eyes shining. "You were magnificent." She stared at him. "I don't know what just happened. You changed the entire room." The director of the initiative approached moments later, shaking her hand and asking if she'd considered joining their advisory board. Wesley stepped back, letting her speak for herself. He didn't interrupt. He didn't take credit. He just stood there, watching her shine. That night, back at the hotel, they stood on the balcony, overlooking the city. The lights reflected across the river like ribbon. "I'm scared," she said. "Of what?" "That this won't last. That I'll wake up and it'll all disappear." He reached for her hand. "Then let's make it real." She turned toward him. "I bought a building in Queens," he said. 3 floors. I was going to turn it into office space. But now I'm thinking something else. A music center. Free lessons, recording rooms, scholarships. And I want you to run it." Her eyes widened. "You're serious?" "I've never been more." She shook her head. "You're offering me a future I didn't even think I was allowed to want." He stepped closer. "I'm offering us a future we both deserve." She reached up, touching his jaw. "I never stopped loving you, even when I hated you a little." He smiled. "I deserve that."
No.
"You were young. We both were. And now." She kissed him. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't desperate. It was quiet, steady,
Certain.
a promise. 2 months later, the center opened in Queens with a ribbon-cutting ceremony attended by city officials, educators, and half her students. Wesley stood beside her, not in a suit, but in rolled sleeves, carrying folding chairs and chatting with parents like he belonged there. Because he did. They didn't need a fairy tale ending. They had something better. They had a beginning. And this time it was theirs. Forever. The grand opening of the Donovan Pierce Music Center was nearly 2 months behind them, but the building still buzzed like something alive. Every room held the hum of melodies in progress. Violins being tuned in the East Wing, a group of teenagers composing on digital keyboards in the production room, and younger kids banging joyful chaos on the percussion wall Wesley had insisted on installing. Kiera stood in one of the practice rooms, helping a shy girl position her fingers on the keys. The child's tiny voice barely rose above the sound of the piano. Like this? Exactly like that, Kiera murmured, smiling gently. Now do it again, but this time, believe you can. The girl nodded, and the hesitant notes came again stronger. When the lesson ended, Kiera stepped into the hallway and closed the door behind her. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced at the screen and answered quickly. I'm just finishing up the last lesson, she said, pulling her cardigan tighter around her. You're still coming, right? Wesley's voice came through the speaker, warm and low. Already here. Conference room. I bribed your receptionist with pastries. She doesn't need bribing. She likes you. I like her too. She said I talked too loud on the phone and gave me noise-canceling earbuds. Kiera laughed softly and made her way down the corridor, passing a bulletin board covered in crayon thank you notes and flyers announcing weekend workshops. When she pushed open the glass door to the office suite, she found him exactly where he said, leaning against the edge of the long table, sleeves rolled up, his tie forgotten in a loose knot around his neck. I thought you said you had a meeting, she said as she stepped in. I canceled it. You don't cancel meetings. I do now. She arched a brow.
Why?
Because I got the email. Her stomach tightened. You mean they approved the expansion? Full funding. The city loved your proposal. Kiera blinked. The city approved the funding? He nodded. Construction starts in November. You'll have 2 new classrooms, a rooftop amphitheater, and a soundproof recording studio. Her mouth parted, stunned. That's everything we asked for.
No, he said.
It's everything you asked for. I just made sure they listened. She crossed the room and threw her arms around him, the force of her joy nearly knocking him off balance. He wrapped his arms around her tightly. Thank you, she whispered. You earned this. She pulled back slightly, looking up at him. You always knew how to pull strings. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. You've always been the music. I just made sure everyone else heard it. He kissed her then, slow and certain, like no part of him was anywhere else. That weekend, they took a rare day off and escaped the city. Wesley had borrowed a friend's cottage upstate, a cozy, ivy-covered place nestled near a lake that shimmered beneath the pale autumn sun. Kiera walked barefoot through the grass, a mug of tea in her hands, while Wesley fiddled with a grill he had no experience using. I could have done that, she called from the porch. I've got it under control. A moment later, something flared, and he yelped, jerking back as the flame jumped. She grinned. You were saying? He stood, brushing soot from his hand. You knew I was hopeless before you agreed to this weekend. I knew you were hopeless the first time I saw you try to fix a piano pedal with a paperclip. That worked. For 20 minutes. He came up the steps and took the mug from her hands, replacing it with his own. I have something to show you, he said. She followed him inside, where the fireplace crackled and a thick manila envelope sat on the coffee table. What is it? Open it. She frowned, but did as he asked. Inside was a deed. Her name was printed in bold across the top. What is this? She breathed. A house, he said simply.
Ours.
In Brooklyn. 3 stories. A garden in the back. 1 block from the music center. Her breath caught. Wesley. I didn't want to just talk about building a life with you. I wanted to start doing it. Every time you smile, I think about all the years I could have spent earning that smile and didn't. I don't want to waste another one. She stared down at the document, her heart too full for words.
Say something, he said.
She looked up at him, eyes glassy. You're not afraid anymore. I was never afraid of you. Just of not being enough. She stepped forward and slipped her hands into his. You're more than enough. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her heart stopped. He opened it slowly, revealing a simple, elegant ring, a single round diamond set on a band of intertwined gold and silver. The moment I saw you again at that gala, I knew I'd been wrong to ever let you go. It took losing you to realize what love really means. And it took finding you again to understand what I want my life to be. Kiera Donovan, will you marry me? Tears spilled down her cheeks as she nodded.
Yes.
Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her hand, then her lips, then her cheeks. Later that night, they lay curled together on the couch, the ring glinting in the firelight. He held her close, one hand resting over her heartbeat. You know, she murmured, I used to think fairy tales were lies. And now I think they just take longer to come true. A year later, the music center had doubled in size. Enrollment had tripled. Kiera was named one of the top educators in the city. And Wesley, though still a dominant force in philanthropic investment, spent most of his time behind the scenes letting her light lead. They were married in the garden of their Brooklyn home, surrounded by students, friends, and people whose lives had been changed by what they built together. There were no masks, no secrets, no distance between them anymore. As they danced beneath strings of glowing bulbs and laughter echoed into the night, Kiera leaned in close to her husband's ear. I hope you're ready for forever. He smiled against her hair. I've been ready since the moment you ran away in that black dress. And this time, neither of them ran.